Hello, Gears and Gaming fans, and welcome to episode 4 of the Gears Intel podcast, a Gears of War fan show covering all aspects of the Gears of War franchise and all things Gears of War adjacent. My name is KDB, and joining me, as always, are my fellow squad members. First up is a man who's been trying to keep his feet on the ground after Scotland's recent Six Nations wins over England and Wales, and not being a rugby fan, I actually don't know how important those results are. But he's here to ram his opinions in our cogholes today. It's David Smiley. Hello, David.
Hello, my feet are well and truly off the ground. They have been off the ground for the last 2 weeks, and I expect them to come thumping down in about a week's time, but I'm enjoying the ride.
Yeah, playing France, right?
Yeah, France next, and then the best team in the world after that, Ireland, so we're going to get a doing over the next couple of weeks. But hey, the ride has been fun.
Yeah.
This is unheard. This is the best Scotland team in my lifetime, so I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts.
Oh, I'm pleased for you. Like I say, I don't really watch rugby. I've never been into it, but happy for you.
Thank you.
Also, we have someone who truly believed in his heart that Super Mario World had a chance against Sonic the Hedgehog in a recent best 2D platformer game poll. But can we blame him because he also holds a season ticket to Spurs, so he's more than used to disappointment at this stage of his life. Tattooed beast of Gears Intel, it's Alex Aldridge. Hello, Alex.
Hello, sir. Yes, as you rightly point out, that much like the war with the Lambent, going to Tottenham every week is an unwinnable war of attrition.
I was actually thinking the jumper I'm wearing, when I was sitting like that, looks like a corpser.
Oh, yeah. It does, yeah. Nice.
Very true. Topical.
On brand.
So, today is going to be our first review, like our first actual review of a thing that exists in Gears of War, because we've done just kind of speculation discussion episodes so far. And the general plan moving forward is to cover things in chronological order, which we may kind of take some license with as we go along. Otherwise, we might be doing like 4 books in a row at one point, which, I'm not sure about that. But so what we're going to do today for the main topic is get to a review of the Rise of Raam, which is a Gears of War graphic novel. And through much kind of research, this is actually the first thing in the timeline that's its time is sort of self-contained. Now, this is hard to explain. So in some of the books, there's they're set in a present day, so after Emergence Day and all that happens in the games. But then they do have flashbacks to much earlier periods in the Gears of War universe that are set before this. But I'm not counting flashbacks. We're counting things that are sort of self-contained in the timeline. So this is why we're starting with Rise of Raam today, which we are going to get to, as I said, for the main topic. We're going to get deep into it, our thoughts on the story and the graphic novel and kind of all aspects of it. Before we get to it, though, a bit of housekeeping and some other bits to go through. First, if you are not subscribed to our YouTube yet, please do, because there's been lots of stuff going up on there. We've started to get Let's Play videos on there. Well, I say Let's Play videos. There's one on there, but the plan is to do a lot more. We've also got a vinyl unboxing video from a friend of the channel, Sean from Coghole Media, who, just decided offered to make a video of the beautiful vinyl trilogy box set of Gears of War. So go and watch that video, because it's really, really nice to look at. It made me insanely jealous because it's sold out and it's not something I'll be able to get. So just have to enjoy the video instead.
It looks incredible.
It does
really
look
nice.
Incredible, yeah. And I think there's another version of it where it's like like that's the collector's edition in that video. So that's really, really nice, because there's like a standard one as well. Also, for housekeeping, so Alex, I'm going to hand over to you and give you an opportunity to talk about another project that you've got going on that isn't Gears Intel. Why don't you, tell us about it?
I will indeed, sir. So, I guess after the dust had settled from the ashes of Sega Mania magazine, myself and 3 of the other guys who worked on that magazine decided to carry on working together and do a podcast, which is the Video Game Hall of Fame. It was the brainchild of Simon from the pod and the magazine, where we basically just each nominate one game every episode that's sort of within a loose genre that we pick beforehand. We present our nominations to each other, and then we hand out a vote to our Twitter followers to decide which of the 4 games gets inducted into the Hall of Fame, which is why KDB was referencing me thinking Super Mario World correctly is better than every Sonic game, because it is. Although the votes did not go that way, probably because our history from the pod is with the Sega magazines are kind of hoisted by my own petard there. But yes, you can find that all out on at VG_HOF if you want to check that out. It's been good fun so far. We just did a first-person shooters episode, which will launch on Monday, the 20th of February. This is probably before this one's going to be out. So
that's tomorrow.
That's fun. That's tomorrow morning. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if KDB can get this one up before that, I'll be very impressed.
I generally put our episodes out a couple of weeks after we record, because I like to spread things out. And then,
all right, let's just do this phase. This is me before I go to West Ham. So probably going to be really bad after this. So there's a snapshot of time before Alex's afternoon was ruined.
It's occurred to me though, with the releasing of the podcast, the way I do it, and that's me trying to be sort of clever and think, I'll give us some leeway. What we ended up doing with, I think, the last 2 episodes is there was a couple of things in them that just became completely redundant because news changed within the time that I put it out. So, whatever. I may start getting them out sooner. We'll see how things go. So I will put, there'll be links to the podcast in the description. Please do go and check it out. Can't recommend it enough. First episode was great, and Sonic 2 is better than Super Mario World in my opinion, but whatever.
David,
anyway,
weigh in.
I can't believe this is a real opinion people hold.
Thank you.
Stunned.
This is why we've been friends for so long. Because David is correct.
It makes a big difference, I think, what you played back then. Because I think I only played Super Mario World, like, not fairly recently, like a few years ago. It just wasn't what I played back then. I was playing Sonic, and if I was to pick a Mario game, it was always Super Mario Bros. 3, because that was the one that my cousin
that was the one I played when I was a kid
on his NES. So I just played. So I think that one's amazing. But I appreciate it.
It is. It's also better than all the Sonic games. Yeah.
Right, we're going to move on to have I got it? Yes, we're going to move on to the Coghole. David Coghole. Gears of War news.
Climbing into the Coghole, put the ladders, or I guess I think I'd like to think of it as a nice rope ladder that we sort of kick over the edge and climb down inside. Trying not to touch the edges because it's not been cleaned in a while.
It's like a Dark Souls shortcut. Just come back this way later.
Yeah,
the bonfires up top will be fine.
But you better get out before we pull the ladder up again, because
exactly,
you don't want to be stuck in there till next time we come in podcast.
No,
just covered in gunk and slime, crying in the corner. So what have we got in the Coghole this week for you folks? Sitting in the corner.
Corners? No, move on.
The Gears of War card game pre-orders have gone live. With details in the game. Oh no, that's for me to click on. Apologies.
Yeah, we're still waiting for those to be sent our way, of course, for free by Sherwin. So come on, mate.
Yeah. Sort it out.
Why do you think KDB's your friend? Come on, figure it out.
I twist his arm.
If we get it, we could do a stream of that. I reckon we need to get together, like I said, in a dingy hotel room.
Yeah,
and we'll play our little cards together.
Yeah. No, I'm excited for that, because I'm not sure this would be
nothing
one.
Sexual.
Yeah. Not sure this would be one you'd be able to play, like, remotely, because it's a card game, so you got to keep. You can't just.
My dad does a lot of that though.
Yeah.
My dad's in a lot of sort of tabletop clubs, and they have like a designated host, and it like rotates every week, and he sets the whole of his dining room table up, and he's got all these cameras there, and he's like walking around filming himself, and people tell the moves, and he has to move their pieces for him. That's when you get proper in deep.
Sorry, we're sort of sidetracking, but does like your dad not just have like a YouTube channel or something like that? Because it sounds like he's got this up.
He should do, shouldn't he? But I don't know if he's that kind of guy.
Yeah.
He's a quiet, retired man who just wants to paint.
Yeah, fair. Sorry, David. Yeah, you were telling us about the card game.
I'm always happy to hear about Alex's dad. He's living the dream.
Yeah, my dad and David are best friends, 30 years apart.
Yeah. I'm hoping. I've been playing the long game. I'm friends with Alex so that to find a way into his dad's
life. To get to my dad.
Yeah.
They'll be really pleased to hear that.
Yeah, so as well, we spoke about this quite a lot last week, but
Yeah.
the Gears of War card game it's making a comeback, isn't it? Is that am I recalling my
That's
my
right.
memory being recalled properly?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's now live for pre-order. You get within the box 265 cards, 15 scenarios, which makes me want, and the rulebook, of course, makes me a bit more interested to hear what this game is going to be like then. If it's scenarios, I thought it was going to be just sort of a Magic the Gathering rock paper scissors thing, which was my assumption.
Like a
of
Gwent
it, but
sort of jobby.
yeah, exactly. Where you had a health pool, there's damage and costs to get cards out, and then you do that. But yeah, scenarios is interesting. I wonder. I'm
Is it
more
co- is it
intrigued
co-op
than
then?
ever.
It
So
seems
it's not like competitive like Gwent. So you are working together to do these scenarios.
Yeah, so now I thought in the original email it said co-op, it said 2-player, and then the description here says, that you're sort of moving in chapters, so it's like a campaign and a story sort of
Cool.
thing. So that makes sense, and whether there's like a separate mode where you do face off, against each other, I don't know, but yeah. It appears to be co-op because it didn't say 1 to 2 players. I'm sure it just said 2-player. I think.
Did Steamforge? They didn't do the Bloodborne game, did they?
Don't think so.
No, but
No.
that game is like typically co-op, but
Yeah.
you can kind of inhibit your players to sort of steal items from them and stuff
Right,
like that.
okay.
So maybe it'll have some kind of like side competitive element to it, where
Yeah,
you're both
yeah.
trying to achieve the same goal, but you can try and outmaneuver your partners to get better gear.
I like the sound of this. I'm very much excited. It's going to cost you $34.99, and the launch date is booked in for the 10th of April 2023.
Soon, yeah. It's a couple
Yeah,
of
it's
months
coming
away.
up.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
not far away.
No, also very excited. As I say, we covered the sort of announcement news last time, but pre-orders are up. Go check it out on Steamforge's websites. And yeah, can't wait to try it out. Like you say, we'll just have to, I don't know how we're going to do that, but we'll make it happen.
I was trying to think of what the UK equivalent of is, like one of those Motel 6s, with the front doors to each room where every horror movie is set.
I was going to say, yeah, because you think like Premier Inn, but that's too nice.
Yeah, it's far too nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to catch something from the bed sheets while we're playing this.
What's the the food stop on the motorways? Don't they have beds? They're not around anymore. Oh, I can't think of the name.
We could find an old burnt out Little Chef and play it in there.
Oh,
That's
yes,
what
a
I'm
Little
thinking of.
Chef.
That's what I'm thinking of, a Little Chef.
Find the stash of the lollipops they used to give you at the end of the day when you go home with your mum and dad.
Yeah. Oh god. Yes. So yeah, very excited for that Gears of War card game. I don't think there's any other Gears of War news to cover today, David.
No, it's been pretty quiet on the Gears front.
It's been pretty quiet. I do know there has been an announcement for a showcase for Unreal Engine, which I don't have the date
really?
in front of me,
Okay.
but that is also April. And the sort of rumour swirling around is, well, if this is going to be showing, because it says it's going to be showing stuff that's going to be using Unreal 5, which obviously includes Gears of War and, future Gears games, Gears 6 or whatever they are. So the feeling is that we may get some kind of news there, so that'll be in the next couple of months. But yeah, as and when news comes, we'll do our best to cover it and touch on it inside the Coghole here on the podcast.
Has the rumor from the previous episode been quashed or confirmed?
Actually, yes, funny you mentioned that. So Guy Welch, who is marketing for Gears of War at Xbox, all we got was, because that screenshot was going around and getting posted, he replied to a tweet and just said fake news. So
Oh, right, okay.
now, does that mean the games are not happening? No, it just means that is probably a fake image, as we thought it would be.
Yeah.
Which I think is fair. So yeah, they've been quite coy about it. They haven't categorically denied. He just said fake news to that image itself. So yeah.
I don't know if this is what this is probably not the time to bring this up, but it put it in my head when you were talking about the Unreal Engine. I would love to know the sort of story of that engine, because I remember when like Gears of War was a thing, it was the sort of de facto go-to engine, and then something happened. I think it was because it was free, and certainly up to a certain amount of sales, like Unity sort of took over for a while, and and maybe I guess also coincided with the time that EA were trying to go like full proprietary with their own in-house stuff. But then like the Unreal Engine seemed to struggle for a little bit, and then I don't know, is Fortnite got anything to do with this? But all of a sudden, it's the biggest thing in the world again.
Yeah, I think it's exactly what it is. I think it's Fortnite. Yeah, and that's the main reason why. It's definitely the main reason why they've kind of shifted. You know, why Epic have sort of shifted so much into. You know, the engine side of things, because that game has obviously been so successful and run so well, and then everyone started using it. However, it's funny because this has now just popped into my head as I was talking. I don't know if either of you know, but so with Unreal, there is huge issues on PC. And any game that comes out that uses Unreal Engine has huge stuttering issues to do, like relates to some technical thing that's sort of over my head. But so yeah, Unreal is in this weird place at the moment where PC gamers absolutely hate it.
Yeah,
but it's amazing for console, and it's doing loads of great stuff. But yeah, and you know, it makes them loads of money, like you say, because of how they license it. And I think how easy it is to use, and so with up and coming developers, it's easier to employ people. So yeah, they've kind of got a bit of a
They need another Gears of War, because traditionally Gears of War was like the test bed for the engine, wasn't it? It was like, here's our new version of the engine. Check out this game that's got lots of squishy bits of flesh that move. Remember the flesh cube? I don't think I'll ever forget that thing.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe we need to.
There's been
a new game.
There was a thing last year, I think when they announced Unreal 5, when they were showing some demos from it, which was quite exciting, and I assume it's even come on since then. And there was stuff that looked like a Gears game, but it wasn't. It was just like a test thing. But yeah, we kind of got off sidetracked there. But yeah, they are a huge engine, huge part of the industry now. And that showcase, I don't have the date, as I say. I think it is April. We'll take a look. Keep our eyes on that, because there might be some Gears of War news around that time. Cool. Right, yeah, before we get to the actual main topic of the graphic novel, a new section I wanted to add to the podcast. It's just a gameplay chat section, which might involve Gears of War. It might not. Obviously, you know, we play games that are not Gears of War 2. But yeah, since the last episode, but that's like a month ago now. But yeah, this past week, David, gameplay-wise, what's on your rotation at the moment? What are you playing? What have you been up to? Have you been playing Gears of War, or have you been playing something else?
I've been playing XCOM 2.
Oh,
I've been having a great time with it. How am
I doing?
You're flying. You're one of my MVPs. Murray, I'm afraid you've died if you're listening to this podcast. Yeah, like I'm having a bit of a I'm not sure what to do with this game sort of thing. In that I will keep this succinct, but like the actual combat in XCOM, I absolutely love it. I love that type of combat in a game. It's the base building stuff around it. I just
totally
spend too much time staring at menus and clicking on research buttons, and I just can't be bothered with it. And I've got a funny feeling, looking at the way the wind's blowing, that I've spent about 20 hours playing this game over the last like week and a half, and I think I've sort of walked myself into a corner, which means I'm going to fail, and I just can't be bothered. I just can't be bothered. So I've been Googling about looking for XCOM likes. The two that I've sort of got on my radar is, well, the one that's on my radar is Phoenix Point. So apparently a lot of the developers of the OG XCOM have came out and made a game, because obviously they don't have the XCOM license anymore, because that's Firaxis that have that.
Yeah.
And they've made this game Phoenix Point. So I might give that a go. It looks fantastic. The shooting mechanics are slightly different, which I'm interested to give it a go. It's not a percentage base. It's like a circle reticule. So like if you aim your circle, the bullet could hit anywhere within the circle. So if you can get your circle right over the enemy, it'll definitely hit.
Yeah.
So similar idea, but a different implementation. It does look like it's got a little bit of that base messing about. So the other game that I've played and really liked, it was on Game Pass for a while, Mutant Year Zero, where you're like a mallard duck with a gun and a top hat. Yeah. The gameplay is very XCOM-like, but it's got like a sort of a bit of exploration on top of it without the base building. So I think that might be up my street. I really liked it when I played it before, but I encountered a game-breaking bug about about like 7 or 8 hours in, and I just couldn't get round it. So I was like, stuff this. But I might try it on my PC, because I think that's where those games are probably better, and hopefully not encounter that bug again, because I'm really enjoying this. Fire Emblem, I was speaking to Alex about this before. Maybe that's another one I need to get involved in.
Mm-hmm. What about the Marvel Midnight Suns, as you're playing Fire Exodus now? Any interest in that?
I don't really know anything about it, to be honest. I'm so tuned out on superheroes. Even when superhero games come along now, I just don't even pay attention. Which is funny, considering I am still playing Marvel Snap and enjoying that.
Well, there you go. Maybe it's for you. Who knows? It's supposed to be pretty good.
It's maybe the time for you to get in on it as well. I notice you can play your friends now too. You get a friend code and you can play against each other. So
I've missed that. Okay, nice.
So it's time. It's time. It's a very, because I know you like a card game, Alex, don't you?
But I don't know why I keep avoiding it, because I just think I'm never going to get anything done for the rest of my life. If I do.
There was a point where I was playing it every day at the same time, like between dinner and like the kids' bath time. There's like a free window of time, and it's so easy because you can't settle down and play console in that time, so it's like there on the sofa, and I was smashing it through. I haven't played it for about a week now, but that's interesting. Being able to play friends, I'm gonna have to get back on it. It's so, I don't know how much, if you've spent much money on it, David, but it's one of those games where I'm like, I could spend some money on this mobile game.
I've been trying not to, so I've bought the battle pass, and then I've just been not buying anything else, and that seems to be sort of scratching my itch a little bit.
Nice. XCOM is a game that I've always wanted to get round to, because a friend of mine from First Aid Spray is a couple of them actually are hardcore XCOM players. And I understand, I mean, if you play it on PC, like, the modding community is awesome, and there's like shitloads of awesome mods and stuff you can get for it. So, and it's a game where funny enough, after I played Gears Tactics, I went on like a turn-based strategy game, like binge thing, and was playing loads of stuff across like loads of consoles, and I was going to get round to XCOM, but I was waiting for it to go on sale, and it never did. But it is definitely, it's one of those ones that's been on my radar, because it's like got loads of stuff that I really enjoy. So
I'm very much looking forward to our chat when we eventually get to Gears Tactics, because it does the same gameplay loop, and it's really, really good. Again, like, not to sort of jump ahead of ourselves, but the slight issue with that is it's like a simplified XCOM, but so simplified that the length of the game sort of starts to expose those holes, if that makes sense. So cogholes. So they as you're playing, like I say, like, it's a very simple one. It's almost needing another layer to it, I think. Given the length that the game is.
Don't sleep on Advance Wars Reboot Camp as well.
That's another one.
A couple of months, because Advance Wars is excellent.
And I can play that on Switch as well.
No, I'm very excited about that. Finally coming out after like the year.
After they've decided the war in Russia's fine now. Like, it's cool. It's been going on long enough. Here's your game, lads. Shut up.
Alex, what about you? What have you been playing this past week or so? What's on your gaming rotation at the moment?
So as I mentioned in the housekeeping at the beginning, the Video Game Hall of Fame, our episode 2 that comes out on Monday is all about first-person shooters. So I was agonising about which one to actually include in the pod as my nomination, because the recent GoldenEye remaster, I think, has probably laid bare some of its faults in plain view. Some of the levels towards the end of that
I fell off
horrible.
that hard. Statue is maybe the ugliest video game level I've ever seen in my life.
I hate that level. It's horrible.
It's bloody awful.
You didn't even get to depot, which is just going in and out of storage containers. That's it. There's nothing else in that level. It's horrible. So I ended up nominating Titanfall 2, and I played with the very short campaign of that recently, and I've been badgering David about it ever since to just make sure, because he still hasn't played it, and we play so much Apex Legends together. There's so many nods, or I guess not nods, because
inverted nods.
But like all the guns from Apex are in this game, and the movement is still great. That time rift level is so ridiculously cool.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Switching yourself from the past to the future and stuff, and being able to run around enemies because they're not in the past, and then boom, there they are in the future, and shoot them in the back. Oh, so clever.
When you
so clever.
When you said Titanfall 2, like my body and my emotions instantly was like, oh, that game is amazing. Oh, I'm so fucking sad because that franchise was just like binned off completely, because it was one of the best new shooters in 10 or more
decades.
years. it's so good. Absolutely, I love the first one, and then the second one was just even better.
The first one didn't even have a campaign in it. The
No.
second one, they absolutely crushed it with
Yep.
just so much innovation and stuff that no one else has even tried to copy since then.
Yeah, and I remember me thinking, oh, this isn't going to be my thing, because with the multiplayer and so much going on, I don't want to have to focus on mechs and doing this. It just seemed like it'd be too much, but it is so fluid, so easy to get, and it's not overwhelming. So yeah, there was news recently that a potential Titanfall 3 got shut down, or
that was going to be more of a mix between that and Apex, wasn't it? It was going to be even closely linked between the two, but then
just don't trust EA to be good stewards of
anything.
Well, certainly FPS titles, because was that not them that they launched? Is it Battlefield and Titanfall in the same week?
Yeah. Battlefield 1 and Titanfall 2 in the same week, and that's why nobody played Titanfall.
Yeah, and then COD came out like a couple of weeks later as well, so it was like smack bang in the middle of them, and the game just died a death. So
that was good as well. Titanfall 1, that was fun. Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Oh, you're gonna really enjoy the second. It's better in every way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm just sad now because it was one of the I tried to get into Destiny and stuff, and I played them both. I played both of the initial campaigns through, and I liked them. But Titanfall 2 and Titanfall were the games where I was like, this is my main game, and then no fucker else was playing it really, apart from a couple of people, and then it just completely died off. And I think now, the multiplayer servers are still up, but I think they're difficult to play because they get hacked a lot, and they're just sort of
of course they do,
just ignored by EA. So depressing.
Sorry about that.
That's fine. Yeah, well, look forward to the podcast episode. You said that was your nomination, was it?
Please vote for it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to listening to that. So people listening to this, that episode will be out now.
Yes.
Cool. Well, as for me, I mentioned this gameplay section to the guys in our sort of Gears Intel chat, and it's just because I wanted an excuse to talk about Dark Souls, which is a series that I am new to. I played Elden Ring last year, which I guess you could say I did really enjoy, but because I'd never played Dark Souls before, it was all very new to me. And since January, I've played through Dark Souls 3, and now I'm playing Dark Souls 1 at the moment. I just reached the Painted World this morning.
Oh yeah,
and smashing through it, and I'm sort of so absorbed by these games at the moment that it's all I'm really playing. All the podcasts I'm listening to are to do with it. All the reading and YouTube videos I'm watching are to do with it. It's
lot of arty video going on, huh?
It's got a bit sick, to be honest. And
we've all been there. David and I would have been there for sure.
Yeah, and even to the point where yesterday,
the Pineapple guy, he's a good YouTuber.
Oh yeah, Iron Pineapple.
Iron Pineapple, yeah. I think I discovered him during some Elden Ring gameplay as well, so I'd heard of him before. But even yesterday, my wife was like, "I've never seen you tweet about a game as much as this Dark Souls game." I was like, "I know, it's consumed me." Got a weird relationship with it where I don't think these games are perfect, but they are so they've got something to them that has really, really got its hooks into me. So, yeah.
How are you feeling about my recommendation of the order to play them? Do you feel it was the right one to have started with now?
I think so. And the reason I think that is because 3 is obviously was a lot more closer to Elden Ring just in terms of gameplay and smoothness and fluidity. So it was an easier transition. I think if I'd have gone from Elden Ring to Dark Souls 1, I might not have got through Dark Souls 1.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
So, and now I've got this new context for the games that I know that my Elden Ring playthrough is just bollocks, because I didn't really know what I was doing, and
I wish I could get to that. I wish I had an understand. I just don't have that sort of a level of understanding of these games. Basically, just my approach is ask Alex.
Yeah,
there is a real thing to knowing, sort of feeling comfortable with these games when you go from completely fearful and overwhelmed to I understand the tricks and the mechanics, so I can pick up any one of these and I know what I'm doing from the start, which is why I thought if you have that with Dark Souls 1 like I did, because I did them in the same order as you, if you start the clunkiest, oldest one with that prior knowledge of what you're supposed to do, and I'm going to make this kind of build, then it's so much more palatable to get through.
Yeah,
I think that's one thing that I still find these what have I done? I've platinumed Bloodborne. I've finished,
which is amazing, by the way.
I've finished 3. I've not finished Elden Ring yet. I've played 3/4 of 2.
Yeah, we played that together. You came to England
Yeah.
and hung out at my house. We had two TVs set up next to each other.
And I think that's it. I
We
did
did one together. Remember, we went the wrong way. We went into the
Oh yeah, we played a bit
Tomb
of
of the
that
Giants
one.
and got absolutely smashed. And we're like, no.
I honestly don't think I've ever got past these games. Still intimidate the life out of me, and I've just never got past that. And I don't know why, given how much of them I've played.
I also don't really have the time to get stuck on games. If I get stuck to the point where, you know, it's taking me an hour to progress, I will look up tips and how to do it. But what's funny is with these games, I actually feel less guilty about that because it's sort of encouraged, I suppose. It seems to me a big part about it is just speaking to other people and looking for advice and kind of sharing the knowledge, because the game doesn't tell you what to do, really. So yeah, I've been completely absorbed by Dark Souls. It's getting in the way. Like, I have some Gears stuff to play for the podcast. I mean, we all do, really, and I've got to get through it. But yeah, it's just been absolutely sucking my life away in a good way. Absolutely loving it. And we're going to talk more about, like I say, Gears games, but we're going to do some bonus episodes on related games and stuff in the future. Probably not Dark Souls, but you know,
that'll be a tough squeeze to try and make that
make a link.
Gears related.
You could make a Marcus Phoenix build. I don't know what that would be.
You could do that, yeah. You'd have to do that Bloodborne and do gun only, I guess.
Yeah. And this is the thing now.
Oh
like, I sort of want to play them all. I can't play Bloodborne because I don't have a PS4. But it's making me like, I need to get a PlayStation just so I can play this game, because I hear that Bloodborne is one of the better Souls.
It's a lot of
Souls
people's
games.
favourites.
I know it's not a Dark Souls
It's my
game.
favourite.
Yeah.
But
Until
I just don't
Elden
wanna
Ring
play it
came
again
along,
till
it was
it's
sort of
60.
Yeah.
I think I know that and again, like, based on my experience of the game, I'm by no means an expert, but like, I know it's a controversial opinion, but my favourites, I think, is 3. I love that game.
I love 3.
I think it's just a setting. I'm more of a fantasy guy than anything else, and it's like that sort of gameplay in a setting that's right up my street, and you get that ring, and you can basically just play it like Bloodborne. The one that, you know, like the ring that gives you, when you take damage, if you do damage back, it replenishes your health.
It replenishes your health. Yeah,
and then you just play that like Bloodborne.
Yeah,
or that's how I played Bloodborne, at least.
And I feel like these games, there's just it's a series where, you know, you're rewarded through repeat plays because there's so many different things you can do and stuff like that. And I'm like, I need to play something else. It's all I'm playing at the moment. But yeah, I'm loving it.
Is Bloodborne your favourite still, Alex, even after Elden Ring?
Yeah.
And what about you, Kelsey? What's your favourite?
Like,
at the moment?
At the moment, 3. But what I really, really want to go back and play Elden Ring with this new like skill set and kind of understanding of how these games work. And I have a feeling it would be on par with 3. I mean, I've got to play 2. Everyone's telling me to not play 2, to not waste my time, but I feel like I kind of have to at least try it just to see, you know.
Yeah, the worst thing about 2 is just that there are so many mob bosses where it's just like loads of enemies at once. That's the biggest problem with it. The sort of general gameplay is, if you're used to it, and that's, you know, if you try maybe mixing up your build a little bit to make it a little bit more interesting for yourself, you might enjoy it more that way. Play something totally different, but it is the worst one. There's no question.
There's something about that though. Is it what's his face? He didn't work on that, did he?
Miyazaki.
Miyazaki.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Yeah, maybe that's the problem. I mean, have you played Sekiro?
I've not played Sekiro, no. Because
I don't
I've
think
heard
David has either. Have you?
No, that game terrifies me.
I've heard that it's not really the same. You know, it's less of an RPG and it's more kind of.
It's just like a linear. Kind of thing, really.
You can't overpower it either in the same way as you can sort of brute force a Souls game.
That's true. It really is about learning the mechanics.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I will one day. Once
I can't beat that game. It's too hard. I can't do the final boss. I never will.
I have heard it's like the hardest of the lot. So of those games. So, but yeah, one day, just, you know, the backlog grows and grows, as you both know. There's always so much to play and so much to get through. But one day in the future, possibly. Right, we are going to move back to Gears of War now and move to our main topic of the podcast, which, as I mentioned, is a graphic novel, The Rise of Raam, and we are going to as I also already mentioned, try and go through everything in Gears in chronological order. So we're starting with this, which is set just before E-Day, and so that's obviously puts it before Gears of War Judgment and Gears Tactics and Gears of War 1. And we're going to sort of slowly make our way through the franchise in that order, but then sprinkling some other stuff with podcast episodes as well, because there's other things that we want to do. Before we get to the graphic novel, before we get to Rise of Raam, graphic novel general chat, kind of like we did with the animated series stuff. David, do you read many graphic novels? Are you a graphic novel fan? Do you have any favourites that, aren't necessarily Gears of War, but just in general? What's your thoughts on?
I used to love a graphic novel. It just became one of those things that, like you say, there's the backlog ever grows, and I just got to the point where there's only so many hours in the day, and at some point one hobby's got to give, and graphic novels sort of gave. But I used to love the Walking Dead graphic novels back in the day. But if you're talking about my favourite, probably Mouse. It's about World War II.
Mouse. Yep.
Brilliant.
For those that don't, I don't know how to explain it. What it's the
it's
Jews
like a
are
biopic of a
mice.
guy, isn't it?
Yeah. That's true. It's about World War II, and they use animals to sort of represent different factions of the world of World War II. And I just think that's an excellent one. That's probably my favourite one. I'm trying to think of other ones that have really stuck with me. Chew, I quite enjoyed that.
Did I get you into that?
You got me into that. Yeah, that's your fault.
As always.
I fell off that, but that's wicked, Chewy.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I'd read more of that.
Those are probably my favourite. Without sort of going down a list here, listing graphic novels, those are the two that would jump out at me. But yeah, I used to be much more of a graphic novel reader than I am now.
Yes, same. I think I went through a period in about 2009 to 2013 where I would go to Forbidden Planet every single weekend and buy something new. I have a huge collection. A lot of it is in a box, not here, because since we moved, I'm using storage at my mum's place. I have on my shelf, I have the Gears of War stuff and some other things. But yeah, I have an incredibly large collection of Batman graphic novels, of The Boys, Preacher, Morning Glories. I tend to sort of have a lean towards, I suppose, sci-fi, dark sci-fi, I suppose. I don't really read. It's funny you mentioned Mouse. I have that as well. That was recommended to me by somebody, which is awesome. But yeah, there was a period where I would get loads of stuff, and the Batman thing turned into me wanting to collect kind of everything, and I haven't got everything. I think.
How did you get on with that? Because that was going to be my question. It's that's where I started trying to do the superhero things, and I just found it impenetrable.
Yeah, and
because there's so much of it.
Exactly, there is, and so basically, I started to just pick writers and just get all the stuff that they had
Writers
done.
is a good idea, because I think off of Alex's recommendations, I started rather than try because. Well, it was New 52 at the time, but that's long gone now. I just started picking the one-off, so Batman Year One, and there's one Gotham by Gaslight that's quite good. It's Batman set in Victorian England or something like that. I quite
Bloodborne of Batman, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's maybe the way to do it.
I would get I have a few Marvel ones, but nothing. Maybe I have 5 or 6 Marvel ones, but loads of say Batman and DC, and then. Yeah, Morning Glories was a really cool one that I don't know how I discovered it, but it's basically about these. I don't want to say superhero. It's not a superhero. It's some weird thing going on with these kids at a high school. It sounds not my it wouldn't be my thing, but it was recommended by. Had a forward written by the guy that by Damon Lindelof, the guy that did Lost and loads of other movies and stuff. And I was really into Lost, and I thought, I'll get that because that must be good. And it's that sort of thing, that mystery box kind of thing. But yeah, so like you, had a period of a few years where I was hard into graphic novels. I feel like now just everything is taken up by kind of podcasts and YouTube and gaming, and whereas with the graphic novels, and I just don't have the space for them now as well. So, but yeah, Alex, what about you? Do you have any favourites or any collections or anything?
I was looking
I
forward
think
to
all three of us are the exact same person in regards to graphic novels. It was so funny to hear you both say that you were into them for a real big period of time. You collected loads of different ones but bounced off of them. Series, I always struggle to keep going with. So like David says, I prefer to find like a one-off TP and get into that. Batman, I've got tons of them as well. I have actually got a list of like my favourite ones here. You didn't really list any, so I don't know if it's worth me just saying.
No, yeah,
Just give us a couple. Give us a couple.
Have you read Nightfall, the trilogy Nightfall?
Yeah, Nightfall, yeah.
That's
it's
really
huge.
good. I enjoyed that. Yeah. As David said, Year One, which is great.
Yeah.
Dark Knight Returns, obviously everybody knows that. And
Yeah.
there's loads of good Joker ones, like Killing Joke, The Man Who Laughs. Have you read A Death in the Family?
Yes,
That's a
Death
good
in the
one.
Family.
Yes.
Yep. That
Where
was the
Robin dies.
That was
That's
the
cool.
first one I actually
Spoiler.
got on my, because I had a subscription to Comixology on my iPad, and that was the first ever digital graphic novel I bought. And I tried to buy them physical because I just prefer it. But yeah, Death in the Family, absolutely love. What's the one with
Is it Jeff Loeb who does like did he do like the Long Halloween?
Yeah,
and,
that's the one I was just going to say.
Victory and stuff.
Long Halloween. That's the one that has like loads of villains in, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's kind of like a murder mystery one,
Yeah.
that one, isn't it?
Oh,
It's-
cool.
yeah.
What's that called?
The Long Halloween.
Yeah, that's
it's like 3 of them now. I think it's like that, Dark Victory, and something else. I'll tell you them off air.
yeah.
That's a really good one, though. David's so easy to manipulate into buying stuff. Just talk. He's like me. Just somebody talks about it, you go, "Yep, I'm going to get that."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Outside of Batman, like you, love Preacher.
Yeah.
And Mouse, as David said. Chew, was going to mention that. That's a really cool one. That's about a guy. What is it? He can.
He's a
If
detective.
somebody's killed, he can.
Yeah.
He can basically he can tell the origin of anything just by eating it.
Yeah,
So,
so,
like-
he can eat a bit of their body, and then
Yeah,
he
I've not
can
heard of
see
it.
what happened to them.
Yeah, so if he finds a corpse and then he like bites their finger off or whatever, then he knows who killed them and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's mad. I like a lot of Frank Miller stuff. Have
Yeah.
you read Ronin?
No, I haven't read Ronin. Yeah.
Yeah, Ronin's very cool. And From Hell is another one I really like as well. I don't know if that is Frank Miller, but that's the one that's based around what's the Jack the Ripper?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Which was obviously then made into a film that had
Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp in it. Jesus Christ, names are flying from my head this morning. I did briefly get into to Fables as well after playing Wolf Among Us.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Telltale game.
Yeah.
That's quite cool. It's like a detective story, but based around children's fairy tales.
Yeah. 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 No, it's funny you mentioned that because I've got a version of Alice in Wonderland that might be in the same sort of vein. But then randomly, like I would get. So obviously, like with Gears of War, I would pick them up. But then there's like Alien graphic novels and stuff. I have quite a few Alien
cool.
graphic novels. Have like a
Are
graphic.
they canon?
No, they're just these random like side story things. And then I also have like a graphic novel version of the original movie, which is really really cool. Which I used to keep in the toilet and just read every time I went to the toilet. There was a stage where I just had a select, like people have random books in their bathrooms sometimes. I would just put like the most wild graphic novels, and then mates would come around and go, "What the f*** is that in your toilet?" We'd have some kind of blood or tits in it or something like that. So that was another one I bought at the time because when it got popular on TV, I bought a graphic novel version of Game of Thrones, which is incredibly explicit. I kept that in the toilet.
I bet it is. I've got some cool graphic novels of H.P. Lovecraft. They're quite fun.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, I bet, they'd be very fun
I've
to
never
look at.
really got into it, but I know that I'm sort of familiar with the stories and and things like that, and I've always wanted to. But it's just, again, it's these things, they pass you by, or you never get around to them. And I know that because I'm a big fan of, as I mentioned, of Jordan Peele, and he loves all the Lovecraft stuff and like sort of draws on that and the Twilight Zone for a lot of the things he does.
Twilight Zone, yeah.
Alex, what were we playing? I'm sure this was for a podcast, but you and I fell down an HP Lovecraft hole for a bit, and you went and bought the completed works.
Yeah, I
of them.
did. Yeah.
And I started listening to the audiobooks of them,
So
but
did
I can't
I.
remember what game made us do that.
It was an actual Lovecraft game, wasn't it? It was not the Sinking City. It was the other one, and I can't remember what it was
Don't know.
called.
Did we do it for a podcast, or where did this come
I
from?
think so. Yeah. And there was also that one that we saw at Gamescom as well, where that guy was showing us that like point and click Lovecraft thing.
Oh yeah,
Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually went looking for that the other day.
Yeah, I have no idea what the name of that game is.
No.
Have either of you ever read any like manga stuff?
No,
I was
not
waiting for
really.
Berserk to come up because I feel
Yeah,
like
Berserk, that's what I was going to bring
So,
up. That's incredible.
Since we talked about it, like, I've been Googling it and looking at it, and I was going to wait till I spoke to you next and say, where shall I start with that? Because obviously I'm
I
so
can show you where to start.
obsessed with Dark Souls, and you mentioned how it sort of takes some influence from it. And then I looked it up and I was like,
big
this
time.
looks quite good. So, yeah, it's definitely something I think I could get into.
is that the one that I've always, is it Berserk? The one that I saw Alex reading when we were at uni that's always stuck in my head, and I've thought I need to get to this one day. It's the one with the eyes, the big eyes. It's like the swirling eyes.
The one I've got a tattoo of, yeah.
Yeah, what's that? Is that Berserk?
That's Junji Ito. So he's actually now there's a Junji Ito like anthology series that's just come to Netflix.
Oh, cool.
He's a hugely influential like Japanese horror writer and artist. And yeah, I was going to mention him as well because that's Uzumaki. Is that graphic novel where everybody becomes obsessed with spirals, and then that girl's face, just basically her eye just takes over her brain, and she becomes a massive spiral, and all these guys are flocking to her, and she murders them all.
Awesome.
He's done a load of cool stuff. I haven't watched that Netflix series yet, but I definitely need to because that's probably my favourite. That and Berserk are the two mangas I've enjoed the most.
Cool. Yeah, I'm going to have to check them out. Yeah, it's funny. Like, it feels like we're all sort of on the same page then with the graphic novels, which is kind of funny. But yeah, we've been talking for a while now, but we haven't actually got to the main topic. So we are going to start and move to the Rise of Raam. Now, it is a relatively short graphic novel. I do just have a bit of spiel about it. I want to set the scene. So the discussion is going to have spoilers. If you haven't read Rise of Raam, maybe go and read it and then come back and listen. Or if you're not bothered about spoilers, just please continue listening. Yeah, so this was released quite recently, January 2018, set before the original Gears of War. And as I said, so it's set basically a short period of time before Emergence Day. And it tells the story of one of the most iconic villains, General Raam, and his rise to power and how he becomes like this big feared leader among the Locust. And the novel begins with him leading a group of drones known as the Bloodied Vanguard, and they're fighting the Locust Horde's battles against the Lambent, and Raam becomes disillusioned with all this and the Queen and the Council's leadership, so he starts to plot to, rise to power and take control of the Horde. And yeah, so we have all read it. I've read it for the first. I've had this for a while. Somebody bought it for me ages ago. I read it for the first time, and we're going to get into our thoughts. And we're going to start. David, why don't you start? Story itself, although it's brief, any highs and lows. What's your general thoughts on the story? How it plays out? And yeah, was it engaging? Did you enjoy it? Just take it away. Anything really?
I think sort of in a nutshell, I did enjoy it. I think I ultimately was quite engaged. I'm glad it was short.
Yeah.
But also, the thing I struggle with at the beginning is the sort of representation of Raam is this intelligent schemer, which I don't think the game gives that impression.
Not at all. Yeah.
Once I sort of got over that and just sort of enjoyed it for what it was absolutely fine. But yeah, that was something. But then I don't know, I can kind of go either way, and I'm interested to hear you guys' thoughts on this, because I was thinking it's like this doesn't feel like Raam to me. But on the flip of that,
you don't know much about him.
I'm thinking of like, we don't know much about him deliberately so, and I'm thinking about like, if you think about like Attila the Hun and stuff like, like great war leaders through history, the people that were coming up against him, they would have saw their enemy as this just evil, all-conquering force rather than an intelligent schemer. So I guess it makes sense, being on the human side, that you see him as this beast. But it did create a bit of a mismatch for me, but then I can also sort of, I don't know, like think my way around it and make it fit, and I just can't tell if I'm making it fit or if it does actually fit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I think kind of exactly what you've said is the game, like Raam in the game, like you don't really get to know anything about him apart from he's leading, he's the big bad guy in the game, and you've got to take him out, and that's it. And then there is some DLC that came later that gives you a bit of stuff, but yeah, you don't really get any context to him as, being an intelligent schemer, as you said. And that's why I suppose I quite like this. I mean, I'm generally pretty picky when it comes to prequels and stuff, because they're so difficult to just get right and have any kind of tension or be that engaging. It's rare when prequel stuff is done well. It does happen. Like Better Call Saul is a TV series I love, and that's a prequel series. They create incredible tension.
Take it you're a big fan of Joey then as well.
Do you know?
Tattoos of Joey.
It's funny you say that. I think that TV show is better than people realise it is.
Was that actually a prequel?
No, it wasn't a prequel. That was set after, wasn't it? It was just a
Pass.
spin-off.
No,
Yeah,
no.
it was just a spin-off. Anyway.
Frasier's a good spin-off. That's
Yeah,
a good one.
yeah, no, and spin-offs, like I say, they can be good. But with this, you said you're glad it was short because I think, it's essentially just like a little prologue story, and
Yeah.
so I didn't need to spend too much time investing in a story about Ram where, okay, I know that he's not going to die, and that, it's just I know his path already. So what can this story do to make me feel engaged? And I like ambiguity as well, which the game I suppose had, but it's just nice to get that context to him as somebody that is he's absolutely fucking mental but clever. Like, he loves getting involved and slicing things up. But story wise, I think just this sort of conspiracy and manipulation stuff, this little power trip thing, it was cool. Like, I enjoyed it. I'm glad it was brief, and this story gave me new context to the character and the game, which I think is valuable. I think if you like Gears of War, and if you're going to read a graphic novel, read this. It's short, and it will make you give you more to chew on for the character. And the fact that, if we talk about highs and lows in this graphic novel, I think, is one of the only times in the franchise that you actually see, bits from E-Day, like, in this kind of detail. As this wraps up, it's like, I feel like it's showing the very first time that the Locust appeared, like, and rose up.
Is.
And I think there is some stuff in the games where you do see bits and stuff here and there that I know I can think of it. I can see it now in my head where it shows little clips, but just in the context of a contained story, it was really, really cool to see that. Alex, what's your general story thoughts in this? Did you enjoy it? Any highs and lows?
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I could sense quite a lot of Game of Thrones influence in this. It's almost like they tried to do this political intrigue with violence story, probably off the back of how popular that had become in
great shout.
Widespread media at that point.
Yeah.
You can definitely see this, the tension between Ram and what's his name, Srak? Is that his name?
Yeah, Srak.
Yeah. I quite liked him. He was just a massive dickhead.
Yeah.
And when he gets his comeuppance at the end, that was very satisfying.
Yeah.
I just found it quite intriguing, as David said, that they've given all this new context to Ram, where he is this like decisive, calculating, badass guy, where he almost, he is effectively the hero of this story. And by the end of it, you're almost cheering him on as E-Day kicks off.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see the story told from more of an empathetic view of seeing the desperation and the discontent and the disharmony in the Locust, and how they were really up against it, and their only option was to take over Sarah ground style.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they were going to get overrun by the Lambent. That was, it gave some more, as you said, some more context and interest to the actual reasoning behind it. And seeing that Corpser was the first thing to smash out on E-Day and kill a Carmine on the way was very interesting as well. Very fun.
Who is this Carmine? Because he says he has no kids. So where I'm assuming it's like an uncle, maybe.
I was going to say it's got to be old uncle. What was his name?
Let's have a look.
What his name was. Now.
Jim or Bill? Bill Carmine?
It might be Will or something. Yeah.
One of it, like, as soon as the corpses come through, I think he's just like, "Give me a fucking gun." Is the first thing he says.
He's just given his gun away. Yeah.
Just one day before retirement.
Yeah.
I guess it's his day of retirement.
Yeah, it's that cliche, isn't it?
Classic.
Yeah.
2 days away from one day to retire.
That didn't even twig to me, but yeah, that's a great shout.
Looking at a picture of his family and everything.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to go back and hang out by myself.
Yeah, he's literally handing in his weapon. Yeah.
Yeah, while looking at a picture of his squad mates or whatever it was.
Yeah. I don't know if it says his name. I can't see it. And it just
I
says
swear it did at some point.
Yeah, we're going to have to find it now, aren't we?
But yeah, that was absolutely, like, loved that. Yeah, and then the corpse of leg just comes through and crunches the guy against the wall.
Yeah. I enjoyed. There is some dashes, only dashes, but there is some dashes of humour in this.
Yeah.
That I also quite enjoyed. I did very much like. I think it's Scourge having a go at the boomers for always announcing when they're going to shoot their guns.
Yeah. Is it Will Carmine?
quite fun.
Yeah, real cold, Will. Real cold.
That's it, Will Carmine. Yeah, there is a lot of humour. What was one of the lines I absolutely loved?
About the Lambent with the big swingy tentacle. What do they call him? Limb or something?
Yeah, limb. I wrote that down. Yeah. Yeah. When they're at one of the all the councillor together, I think Srak says that Ketor the only commune he has is with the shriveled worm between his thighs. So like,
yeah, that was good.
Yeah, because obviously like
that's very Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it is. It completely is. Yeah, it's a great sort of reference. It did not even cross my mind, but it all makes sense. For those that don't know, if you're not
such a good insight. I love that.
If you're not hardcore into Gears of War lore, essentially how it works is the Locust worship like these three Riftworm gods, and then in this story we're seeing like the sort of clash between the old ways and the new ways, because then you've got Ukon the scientist as well, this is his first appearance. So Ukon is like the main villain in Gears Tactics,
right? Okay.
Which obviously we're going to cover in the future. But yeah, I quite like it. There's loads of great back and forth, I think, between the characters, and it is strange when the Locust are speaking, because they don't really speak they speak in the games, but they're just doing the grunts and the sort of commands. Yeah. But when they're having like intellectual conversations, it is kind of weird, although
swearing a lot as well.
Yeah.
A lot of effing and jeffing.
They do in the books, so it's not like my first exposure to it, but it can be sort of weird to think, oh yeah, they're not completely brainless. Which is
although the Lambent do seem to be,
the Lambent
suggested as being,
they're the ones that are just sort of gone absolutely wild with the emulsion infection and all that. So,
so one thing about I assume this is explained in Gears Tactics, but it's one thing I've obviously forgotten. But Ukon, I'm just reading about him just now. He's the lead scientist of the Locust Horde, a member of the Locust Council. During the Lambent Locust War, originally human as a child, he was afflicted with rust lung, a fatal lung condition, which is obviously... You start seeing more of that in Gears 2, don't you?
Yeah.
And he was transported to the New Hope research facility to be treated alongside other ill children. Ukon was the first to be part of the genetic experiments at New Hope.
That led to
Ukon
the Locust
transformed
creation,
that transformed into a sire. Yeah, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't realise that. Yeah, because he's got like you can't really see his face, can you? You've got like a sort of metal rusty mask on.
Yeah, that's right. It's we're sort of touching on it already, because this is so short. It is mainly sort of its character highlights. It's like a little quick character piece because it's not a big, long, extended story. So character thoughts we are touching on. I think Ram is he is the central highlight. As I said, it makes him seem more conniving and ruthless than ever, but I do like,
as you say, he is unhinged as well at the same time, because he's constantly just diving straight into everything.
And he's always got that blade in his hand, just cutting shit up.
Yeah, he does some great kills in this.
But one of my favourite things about this, I've said it's sort of character driven, and it's bouncing around all these key players, these key people in charge in the Locust. As brutal and conniving as it makes Ram out to be, he still doesn't get outdone by the Queen, which I think is quite important, because in the games, although she is like the big bad and stuff like that, again it's something where sometimes this extra context just helps you appreciate the characters so much more. And I like how the Queen basically says to him that she's allowed him to go through with this plan, and she say, "You're not going to outmaneuver me," I think is what she says to him, and then she just grabs
She's
him.
even been watching him going up to Sarah to the
going to the surface, and so Ram just becomes this lapdog to her. It's like you spend the whole thing like, oh god, yeah, he's crazy, and then it's just a reminder, like, no, she's in charge, which I really, really like. I think it does a lot for the...
She overpowers him at some point. She gets him by the throat, which is cool.
Grabs him by the throat, which is really cool. So I'm a big fan of the Queen character, because it doesn't make the Queen redundant, obviously, which it sort of
Yeah,
could
absolutely.
do. Like,
I'm glad you've said that, because that was something my takeaway from the graphic novel is that I felt that given how ambitious and like sort of scheming and conniving he was, it didn't sit right to me that he was sort of a hard stop when it came to the Queen. So he was like sort of like undermine everyone, but then as soon as it came to the Queen, it was like a hard stop. It just felt like out of character compared to what they were sort of creating. But within that context, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, he kind of retains his loyalty to the Queen throughout, doesn't he? Even though he's going against basically everything else, he's always for Queen and Horde, and he always has this staunch belief that his cause is what is right for the Horde.
Yeah.
But nobody else is going to buy it. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, Mirror, the Queen Mirror, like she's not in it loads, but like I just like and think it's important that she still has that huge presence, which is like ironic because she's tiny. Like, you know, she sort of always looking up at them like that when she's talking to them, which is like an awesome little visual. Ukon, I really like Ukon. He's like, you know, like a smart ass. He's really clever, and he's got this like disdain for stupidity, which comes up a couple of times, and the old ways and stuff. And we're gonna get sort of really hard into Ukon when we get to Gears Tactics, which I can't wait for because I love that game and I do really like the character. So it's cool to see him here. Alex, any other character thoughts, like highs and lows, or things that you enjoyed or didn't, or things that you didn't enjoy character wise?
I was gonna say that I don't think there were many lows. The only issue I had character wise is again, kind of like Game of Thrones, sort of forgetting who everybody was every time they were mentioned.
Yeah.
So there were a couple of times when names just got like lost in my.
Yeah, I was confusing names and ranks at some point.
Yeah,
they're quite similar.
Because Ukon is the guy like in the orange mask, but there's the other guy as well. Is it
Scourge?
He's hit. No, I enjoyed.
Ketor. You mean like he's the old?
Ketor,
he's basically the guy that's sort of heading the religion. I think I can't remember.
Right, he's like the sort of high priest or whatever.
That's
okay.
right. Yeah, and he gets.
I think I got those two mixed up for a bit.
He gets completely sort of mugged off by Scourge, who comes and says that he's had another prophecy and stuff like that. And that I thought was also quite funny. How Scourge goes to him and says, you know, the Lambert War's lost, they're going to overtake us. And then he literally turns around. He's like, no, that's bullshit. And then he turns around and opens the gate, and there's like 5,000 at the door. Because obviously Ram and stuff, I think, has allowed them to get there. They're stood up on the cliffs waiting with all the boomers. But yeah, absolutely loved that.
I liked the bond between Scourge and Ram.
Yeah.
That was quite nicely done, like sort of brothers in arms. I think the other guy I kept getting confused with was the other Vold. Who is it? Is it Ketor? No,
Ketor's the priest. So
Khan? Vold Khan?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Because he kind of looked like Scourge a little bit, and he was involved in other parts, and I kept sort of thinking, is this Khan we're looking at now, or is this Scourge? I couldn't tell because they're both sort of covered in red.
Yeah. No, it can be...
What did you get?
Sorry, David, go on.
No, carry on. I was going to change tack.
Yeah.
So.
Does Khan he gets injured near the end, doesn't he? He gets he sort of busts in and he's like bleeding all over her table that she tells him not to get messy. Yeah. That's quite funny.
Yeah, no, those names can be confusing, and like I say, that even when you got it in front of you reading through, you're just like, what? You know, this is another reason why I quite like this was brief. You can just quickly go back over it.
Totally.
The sniper characters in this as well, the Jamad, which I quite like. The boomers are cool. I
like his little talk by mates as well that say that they're gonna they'll stick by his side and whatever, and then they help him kill Srak at the end.
That is brutal. Where his chest, the two bolts come in and his chest is just completely sort of blown open by it. David, any characters, any standouts for you? What did you like?
So what I'm interested to hear your guys' feelings on, like, so obviously they make Srak this thing that is much more powerful than Ram, much bigger, stronger, and intimidating than Ram is. And in this situation, Ram's this little... He almost looks like the little guy. Yeah. But then when you think about his sort of big reveal in the first game, he is this massive, domineering, all-powerful, almost like Terminator character that is just marching through swathes of enemies, just chopping them down. And like in this graphic novel, comic, whatever, they sort of outram Ram. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? They like.
Yeah, I guess
they,
that's to get sympathy for him, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, and I thought that was an interesting thing to do. I don't know. I don't have much more to say to that. I just thought it was it kind of jumped out at me.
It's a great point, and then obviously, like, what we need to remember is, but this between here and then, there's like 15 years pass as well. So obviously he's going through.
So he may well be Thraxized by that point.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about physical proportions and stuff, I mean, there are some sort of liberties taken with it here and there. Like, often in the games, things are in the graphic novels, things are bigger and meaner than they are in the games because the proportions can just get a bit ridiculous otherwise. But yeah, so and character wise, he's obviously going to have been through a lot since E-Day and then the events of this graphic novel and getting to that point where he's stabbing his knife into Kim in Gears of War 1. And I don't think he even speaks in the game.
I don't think
he may speak in the final battle when he talks to his krill. Maybe.
But yeah, no, I thought it's just really cool to see him presented in that way. Other character-wise, I think I've kind of covered what I wanted to. But yeah, we've touched on the Carmine, which is cool to see.
I enjoyed that nod.
Because that's the end of the Pendulum Wars, isn't it?
Yeah,
as well at the same time. Because they basically, I guess they win the war, the Cog wins the war, and then almost immediately just get absolutely wrecked.
Yeah,
in E-Day.
Yeah, he's just like, finally we've got peace with the UIR, and then I'm retiring, as we've said, and then they just come through the floor. What the is that? Nice. What about presentation, artwork? Alex, do you have any thoughts overall about how it looks? Anything you like, anything you don't like?
A big fan of how it looks. There's quite a lot of cool environmental storytelling going on there. You mentioned earlier about the religion and their riftworm worship. I like the sort of decal they have in the temple, where it goes up to that podium. I think is it over a door or something where you've got like or maybe even a staircase where there's like a riftworm going right up into the jaws of it. I actually was looking up the Curtis, I think it's Weeby, who wrote it. He's done another series that kind of seems like it might be interesting. I don't know much about the artist, but I do. But this was, like I said earlier, very suitably violent. And I guess the color palette is probably suitable for the games as well. Just a lot of browns and greys mixed in with some
I like the
glorious
contrast.
gold and yellow.
Yeah, I was about to say that my favourite bits is when they use yellow quite
key.
Effectively. There's I'm looking at a page here in the second issue. It's like the last page where the Lambent Horde are kind of arriving at the steps. And I love that. I would put that on my wall.
That one, do you mean?
That's the one. That's the very one.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's exactly a point I was going to make. I mean, I like dark stuff. And we've touched on it in the animated series where having that vibrancy, like with the cog blue lights and things like that coming through, just makes it sort of look all the more interesting because of I have. As I always say, I'm a big Resident Evil fan. I'm hugely critical of Resident Evil 1 Remake because it's essentially two colours for the entire... It's one of my biggest gripes with that game. It's great to play. Everything just kind of looks green and brown and yellow and that's it. And it really annoys me. But then something like this has that contrast and vibrancy of the blood, of the lambent, of the cog coming through all this disgusting darkness, and for me that just makes it all the much nicer to look at. The sort of style of it and line style is very, you see it a lot for graphic novels. This is
absolutely
and we mentioned how if there was to be an animated series, this is the sort of thing it'd be cool if it looked like. And the detail is incredible. Everything looks as ugly as it should and nice and detailed. Nothing really gets lost. I think it does have a decent differentiation between the characters, although a couple of them are kind of... It is easy to get lost and mixed up with who you're looking at. I think monster-wise, the iconic looks are there for the Scourge and the Boomers and stuff like that. They've done really well. They draw
a good Corpser in this.
Yes, the Corpser is fantastic. So yeah, there's just not much to complain about, and I think we've said a couple.
One thing I will say though, if you're talking about a complaint, sorry to
go
jump
for
in.
it.
one of the things that I always have issues with in graphic novels, and I don't know why, is that action scenes often get lost on me. So when there's no dialogue, like, so here's one, it's like a prime example here, and this is going to expose how I read this. But when you've got like, well, hang on, let's probably just try to load a pop-up as it will do. When you've got the scene that's like that, and it's just like pane after pane, really thin panes of like a fight going on. I always find them in graphic novels really hard to properly look at, because there's no words to read. So it's almost like you just skim through it and you go, oh yeah, they're fighting. But if that was like a film, that's the bit you'll be waiting for. Yeah. Like, here's the big fight scene. Yeah. But in a graphic novel, I don't know why, but I always just go, no, there's no words. I get it. He's probably stabbed somebody, because even now I can barely tell what's going. I mean, look, there's some of these bits here. Like, what's all this?
There's one there that's just like literally,
There's some lines and some stuff.
I get what you mean, and I definitely found myself, and have in the past, and I suppose this is, is there a right or wrong way to experience these? You've got it in your hands, and and I found myself going back over those sequences, because you do skim, you're just like, whoa, and then I have to catch myself, and I go back.
Yeah, I feel like a fraud. Like I'm not looking at the art properly. I just want the words and the swearing and
exactly that. So I go back and overlook it, and look it over again. So yeah, it's a completely fair point, and like you say, it's often the case in other graphic novels as well.
True, yeah, absolutely.
But despite that, it does look really nice. I think
it does.
I love the way the Queen looks. I mean, sort of alluring and stuff. She looks better here than she does in the games, even.
Definitely.
Yeah, which I'm a fan of, and I sort of want to make no bones about it. It's just like, it's cool when you have villains like that. Ram is Ram. He looks like a big bastard, but then it's like, it's nice when there's subtlety to the real person in charge. And yeah, she looks great. Her outfit looks great. In the games, I am a big fan of how Rhaena ends up looking, but she's got like tentacles and stuff, but I still don't think she looks as good as Queen Mira. I think, she has a really iconic look as a character. Yes, David, any thoughts about the look and the art style?
Yeah, I generally quite liked it. I thought it was fun, and I like we've spoken about the way it uses yellows and things like that. I think we've spoken about this before, but one thing it took the games a while to do was to get their color palette nailed. I think, like, obviously they started with greys and browns, but one thing that I think, even from Gears 1, that the developers absolutely nailed was the lighting effects. The one that always jumps out to me, and bearing in mind this is on an Xbox 360, so probably if you've not played these games when they came out, it might look different, but the water effects when you arrive at that sort of, is it like a power plant that's all shut down?
Yeah.
It's like Act 3 of Gears 1.
Yeah.
That will always sort of live in my memory is when the game, like, it's like, oh, this isn't just a mindless action game. There's like, it feels like there's like horror elements to it, and it feels quite deep and foreboding. And yeah, the lighting I think has always been very good. I think the reaction to people saying that the games were brown was to just go the complete opposite direction. There's like, I think, is it Gears 4?
Yeah.
It is almost like you're walking around in a tropical city, like a tropical island.
Yeah.
And then they sort of settled down and found their groove slowly as time has gone on. But I think that, for the most, where I'm going with this, as much as you can do lighting in a comic, I like the way that they do the sort of tone and shades, and like you say, like they pick their colors at the right time. So like when they use it, I find it quite effective. It's not just a bright, I need to put my sunglasses on to read this. They're really quite picky in where they use it, which I think is a nice sort of nod to the game and makes it feel cohesive, if that makes sense. If this comic was just really big, bright and garish, it wouldn't feel like it's part of the Gears universe, whereas I think they do a good job of making this fit within the world, which I'm big into making sure.
Definitely.
I think that's important.
And you sort of, both of you mentioned the corpse, like that's a perfect example of it, and it's great that they have that creature, because it can just be sitting back in the darkness, and then with all the sort of lights and the yellow sort of on its face, it looks amazing. I love it. And I'm going to mention Dark Souls again, but playing that, there's quite a few times in Dark Souls 1 where you can just see eyes in the darkness and things like that, which I really, really like. And it sort of does that here. And to get lighting across on the page is difficult, but they have it on their side that they've got those, but those details on the corpse and the lambent as well, because obviously they're just basically glowing all the time.
I think when David was saying about like how they pick and choose when to use it, I think that also speaks to the pacing of the novel, which I think is really good.
Yeah,
I think it's the short length helps that.
Yeah.
They don't have to linger on anything for too long. But I think the way that they pace it between the intrigue and the arguing versus, really short, sharp bursts of extreme violence makes it an engaging read throughout, I thought.
Yes, agreed. Cool. Yeah, well, like I say, it is a brief affair, and this has been sort of our first review of a piece of Gears media. And when we get into things like the games and the other books and stuff, there's going to be a lot more to cover. But it's kind of nice that we've started with this prologue, because it's really sort of setting us up now as we move on in the future. But yeah, do we have any final thoughts, David? What's your overall view of this? And it kind of implied that we might start each of us giving things a rating out of 5, and that's always difficult to do because everyone's scale is different, but just to put a sort of a rubber stamp on things, it'd be cool if we did that. So if you're able to give it any final thoughts and a rating out of 5, what would you say, and what would you give it?
I don't know if this is harsh, because overall I think it's good. I think it nicely sort of plugs the gap, makes Ram feel like a lot more of a character.
Yeah.
You can understand his motivations. I always think the best media creates an antagonist or an enemy or the friction point as someone who isn't just bad for being bad's sake.
Yes.
And I think motivations are important. Origin of your sort of enemy is important, because it makes them feel realistic. They're not in the real world. People aren't just evil dudes for evil's sake. They have motivations, they have point of views that you obviously disagree with, and I think they do a good job given the source material, because I as much as I love the Gears of War universe, and I think that given the tools that they have, they've actually created quite an interesting and engaging world around these games. I don't think it wasn't meant like that in the beginning, I don't think, and so like sort of given the tools that they have and the sort of design of the enemies even, they've done quite a lot with it, and I think this sort of further pads that out in an interesting world and makes me understand where they're coming from. So it's not the best thing I've ever read,
Sure.
but it's also not by a long way not the worst. I think I'd be 3.5 stars. Am I allowed to give it half stars? I don't think it's quite a 4 for me, but it's definitely better than a 3.
Yep.
So I'm sitting around there, I think.
No, I think that's very well put, and yeah, you've kind of just taken the words right out of my mouth, really. It's just
Same.
Yeah, it's like with the game, like I love Gears of War 1, but Ram is always, to me, it's just like he's the disposable villain. He's like, oh yeah, he's the big guy that you fight, and you get this, and this is great, and I remember enjoying Ram's Shadow, which is the DLC, but this is a really nice character beats to Ram, and getting to see E-Day, or that direct lead up to E-Day, is really, really cool, and which makes it completely worthwhile reading. I've kind of said already, like, if you're a Gears of War fan but you don't necessarily read graphic novels, just check this out, because it is it's so brief. It's just a nice little prologue, and I think it will do a lot for you. And really nice to look at. Really pleased with it. If I was going to rate it, I would probably give it a 2.5 out of 5, a 2.5 out of 5. Which, and I don't want that to, we sort of live in a world where if anything gets less than a 8 out of 10 or something like that, it's considered catastrophic failure, which just isn't. It's just not should be how things are. Me giving it a 2.5 is sort of largely based on the fact that it is short. There's not a lot going on here, but that 2.5 is a strong 2.5. Big points for those character stuff and all the fun, the humor in it, which you mentioned, Alex, is good. It definitely made me laugh a few times, which is cool, because Gears of War is absolutely nuts and could fall into territory where it ends up taking itself too seriously, and then it just sort of and I think with it in the confines of a graphic novel, you've kind of got leeway to be a bit sillier and have some more fun. So I really enjoyed it. Solid 2.5 out of 5 for me. Alex,
do you think Sorry, Alex. Before you drop a bomb on us, I think that I basically agree with that. I think it's entirely throwaway, but it's supposed to be. I think you don't want to be hiding key important stuff necessarily within the games. That's what the games are for.
Yeah.
That's the main part of the series. This is additive.
Yeah.
And I think it is additive. It doesn't take anything away from the series. It doesn't make the series actively worse.
Nope.
But if you've never read it, you'd be probably okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Alex, any final thoughts? How would you rate this?
Yeah, I just kind of add to what David just said there. I think if you needed to flesh something out before the first game, I think this was what needed to be fleshed out.
Yeah.
Is the motivations behind the Locust and why they did E-Day when they did, and what Raam was really all about, which I thought was, as you said earlier, really useful insight into that.
Yeah.
Doesn't quite, make the invasion sort of make you empathetic towards their invasion, or make it more understandable as you're going to be playing against them as the humans for the rest of the all time in Gears. But like I said, I enjoyed the way that it kind of made me root for Raam for a little bit, even though I know where he's going to end up. I think I'd stick with where David was on the rating front. I'd probably give it a 3.5, not quite a 4. Probably because of the confusion I had with certain characters getting muddled around in my head, and how that was maybe a little bit too vague at times there.
Yeah.
But other than that, like I said, paced really well, good length, lots of good violence, lots of intrigue that I could see coming in from other mediums where they're trying to, as you said, try and make it a little bit more serious and respectable.
Yeah.
Whereas you don't want to go too far with that, and I don't think they did, because they had enough humor in there to balance it out. So yeah, really enjoyable.
Yeah, very well put. It's a graphic novel you could read over a cup of tea. So, that's kind of gives you an idea of the length of it, really. So yeah, I do recommend it. Cool. Okay, well, yeah, we've done it. We've finished. We've got our first review. We're sort of on the road now. As I say, we're going to be moving on to, we have got other stuff for the podcast that we're going to be doing, but when it comes to the actual content, I think we might be moving on to one of the games next. I'm not going to say now because I need to just look at our list and have a think about what's coming next for a podcast. But yeah, so we're set up and good to go for the entire franchise, which is now on the road ahead of us. It's going to be good. We're going to be getting to in depth with everything. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think this is, as I say, is a good way to get us going. If you have been watching on YouTube today, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, all that lovely stuff. If you're listening to the podcast on Spotify or Apple, give us a rating or review. Come and follow us on Twitter, Gears_Intel. You can find David on Twitter at DavidSmiley1 and Alex is at SuperThrillix. I am K_D_B_. Chaps, thank you so much again for joining me today, and
thank you.
We will be back again as soon as possible. Go and listen to Alex's new podcast. Alex, again, what was the name?
You can find us on Twitter at VG_HOF. It's the Video Game Hall of Fame.
That's the one. I didn't want to mess it up. I thought it was that. Cool. Thanks.
Don't forget, winner is you as well.
Yeah, and a winner is you too. Yeah, which I also guested on for the first time one of the recent episodes, which was fantastic. You also have a Dead Space remake episode out, which I highly recommend. Loads of stuff for you all to check out and listen to. Thanks for joining us today. We'll be back again soon, and remember the Fallen.